Have you ever had that feeling, where it's like you're looking at your own life through a blurry lens? Well, today we're going to clear things up. We're diving into a powerful framework from Buddhist wisdom that can bring everything into super sharp focus. It's called the three marks of existence. And trust me, it's an incredible tool for understanding your own mind and, well, reality itself. But let's kick things off with a question that I think we've all wrestled with at some point. You know that feeling, right? When everything on paper is just great. You got the job, you're on that dream vacation, but there's still this, I don't know, this quiet hum of unease. The sense that something isn't quite right. Yeah, let's unpack that. So what's really interesting is that ancient Buddhist teachings say the answer isn't about changing our circumstances. It's about understanding three fundamental truths about existence itself. Three truths that we pretty much overlook every single day. And getting a handle on these, it can be a complete game changer. So, fact number one. It's something we all kinda know intuitively, but we spent most of our lives fighting it tooth and nail. It's simple, but it's incredibly profound. Everything changes, all the time. In Buddhism, this has a name, anicca, or impermanence. It's this core idea that everything, and I mean everything, from a passing thought to your own body, your relationships, even solid-looking mountains, is in a constant state of flux. Nothing is ever truly standing still. And here's where it gets really fascinating. This isn't just some ancient philosophy. It lines up perfectly with modern science. The Buddhist view says that our suffering comes from trying to hold on, to cling to things that are naturally changing. And then you look at neuroscience, and what do you see? Our brains are what they call plastic. They are literally built to constantly rewire and adapt. So we are hardwired for change, yet we spend all our energy resisting it. Okay, so if everything is always moving, always in flux, what do you think happens when we try to swim against that current? Well, that leads us right to the second mark of existence. And that brings us to dukkha. Now, it's often translated as suffering, but a better word is probably unsatisfactoriness. Think of it like this. It's that subtle background stress you feel when you're trying to freeze a perfect moment, knowing deep down that it's about to slip away. That feeling right there, that's dukkha. And again, you see this exact same idea pop up in modern psychology. Buddhism explains suffering as the gap between what we want and what is actually happening. Then you hop over to cognitive psychology, and they're talking about how distorted thinking, like being a perfectionist, creates that exact same kind of gap and leads to stress and anxiety. See the pattern? It's not the change that hurts. It's our resistance to it. All right, so everything changes, and resisting that change causes stress. Got it. Now we're heading into the third and maybe the most mind-bending mark of existence. This one takes that same idea and applies it to the one thing we all believe is solid and stable, ourself. This is anatta, or non-self. And yeah, this one can be a little tricky. It is absolutely not saying you don't exist. Of course you do. What it's saying is that the you that you think of as this fixed, solid thing is actually a dynamic, unfolding process. A really helpful way to think about it is that yourself is more of a verb than a noun. And what's just wild is how modern psychology has basically arrived at this same conclusion from a totally different direction. In Buddhism, the self is seen as this collection of constantly changing thoughts, feelings, and sensations. In cognitive science, they talk about the narrative self, the idea that our identity is really just a story we're telling ourselves, a story that's constantly being rewritten and edited based on our experiences. Okay, so this is all really interesting stuff to think about, right? But these ideas aren't just supposed to be intellectual concepts you kick around. They're meant to be seen, to be experienced directly. So the real question becomes, how can we actually start to see this for ourselves? Here are three really simple experiments you can try today. First, to notice change, just try journaling your moods for a day. You'll be amazed at how quickly they shift. Second, to see that unsatisfactoriness, just watch your mind. Notice how it constantly grasps for pleasure and tries to push away pain. Feel that tension? That's it. And finally, to get a taste of non-self, just play with your language. Instead of saying, I am anxious, try reframing it as anxiety is arising. Do you feel that? That little bit of space you just created? That's huge. Okay, we've just covered the three big ones, the foundational marks of existence. Now, if you're ready to go just a little bit deeper, there's another layer to this called the non-dual view, and it really takes these ideas to a whole new level. So the traditional view helps us see that everything is changing. The non-dual view takes it a step further. It asks, what if impermanence itself is just another concept, another label we're applying? It suggests that suffering doesn't just happen to a self. Instead, it just arises in awareness, but there's no solid me for it to actually stick to. It's kind of like a cloud passing through a vast, empty sky. The sky isn't bothered by the cloud. And this quote right here just captures the heart of that shift perfectly. The point isn't to get rid of suffering, it's to see through the illusion that there's a solid me for the suffering to latch onto in the first place. When you see that, the suffering just doesn't have anywhere to land. So after all of that, we're left with one last, really powerful question to ponder. If everything we experience, our thoughts, our emotions, even our very sense of self, is just a constantly changing process, then what is it that's aware of all of this happening? Now that's a question we're sitting with.